Okay, so we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today, but important stuff. Suicide.
Yeah, a tough topic for sure.
Yeah, we've got a lot of really powerful material to go through. I think together we could hopefully shed some light on this. It's such a complex issue, right?
Absolutely.
And the goal here isn't to overwhelm anybody listening. It's more to equip you with some knowledge, some insights,
Yeah.
and just a better understanding of the signs and some of the prevention strategies and resources available when we talk about suicide.
Yeah, and so often I think our understanding of suicide is clouded by this misconception that it's just simply about wanting to die. But it's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
That's where I think Dr. Thomas Joiner's research really comes in, why people die by suicide.
Yeah,
It's not just a desire to end life, it's this perfect storm of different factors.
exactly. He points to two specific psychological states. One is feeling like a burden to others, and the other is feeling profoundly disconnected. And it's this combination that creates such unbearable suffering.
So it's not about wanting to die, but rather not seeing a way to live with that level of pain.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this ties into Dr. Viktor Frankl's work in Man's Search for Meaning. He was a psychiatrist
Yeah.
who survived the Holocaust and observed that even in the most horrific circumstances, humans have this innate drive to find meaning. And when that meaning is lost, the will to live can dwindle.
That's incredibly powerful. He found meaning even in a concentration camp,
Yeah.
while others around him were giving up.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how essential that sense of purpose is for our survival.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, the World Health Organization estimates that over 700,000 people die by suicide each year.
Wow.
So it's a global crisis. And understanding those underlying factors,
Yeah.
that sense of burden and disconnection, is really crucial.
Yeah. It makes you think about the importance of fostering connection and meaning in our own lives and our communities. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's maybe bring it back down to earth a bit and focus on something really practical, like recognizing the warning signs
Yeah.
that someone might be struggling with suicidal thoughts.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention outlines 5 key warning signs,
Okay.
and familiarizing ourselves with these can truly be life-saving.
Okay.
The first, and perhaps the most obvious, is talking about wanting to die. And it's important to never dismiss these statements, even if they're veiled in humor or they seem casual.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to just brush those off as they're just being dark, or they're just venting. But as you said, it's crucial to take those seriously. What are some other kind of red flags that we should be aware of?
Expressions of hopelessness
Okay.
or feeling trapped. These could be statements like, there's no way out, or everyone would be better off without me. And these signal a really profound sense of despair.
You know, that feeling of being trapped is something that really resonates with me from Johann Hari's book, Lost Connections. He said, and this is a quote, "People don't die by suicide because they want to die. They die because they feel hopelessly alone, disconnected from the people and the world around them."
That's such a powerful quote.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the importance of reaching out to those who might be struggling. But there are other signs to be aware of as well. For example, withdrawal from friends and activities they used to enjoy
Yeah.
could be a sign that someone's struggling internally.
Yeah, it's like they're slowly disappearing from their own lives, retreating into themselves.
Exactly. And then there are extreme mood swings.
Okay.
So imagine someone going from deep sadness and despair to suddenly being calm. It can be really unsettling and might indicate that someone has made a decision
Yeah.
to end their life.
It's like that calm is coming from a sense of resolution,
Yeah.
almost like a decision has been made.
Yeah.
That's chilling when you put it that way.
Yeah. And finally, we have increased use of alcohol or drugs.
Right.
This is often an attempt to numb the pain, escape from reality,
Sure.
but it ultimately exacerbates the underlying issues.
So we've talked about the why behind suicidal thoughts. We've talked about the warning signs.
Yeah.
But what about actually having the conversation with someone? You know, it can feel so daunting to approach someone that you're worried about. Like, I know I'd be terrified of saying the wrong thing.
That's completely understandable. It's a fear many people have. But there's this common misconception that talking about suicide will plant the idea. And research actually shows the opposite. Bringing it up in a safe and compassionate way can actually reduce the risk.
Okay, that makes sense. But it's still so hard to know where to begin. What's the right way to start that conversation? What do you actually say?
It's about creating a safe space for honest conversation.
Okay.
You can start by simply expressing your concern.
Hmm.
And maybe say something like, I've noticed you haven't been yourself lately, and I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about hurting yourself?
Okay, so it's direct, but it also shows that you care. I think a lot of people hesitate because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, but just expressing that worry is a huge step.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't need to have all the answers or try to fix the situation. What's most important is to listen
Yeah.
without judgment
Okay.
and offer genuine support.
So it's not about giving advice or trying to solve their problems. It's about really hearing them.
Exactly. Dr. Marsha Linehan, who developed dialectical behavior therapy,
Right.
which is a type of therapy often used for people struggling with suicidal thoughts,
Yeah.
emphasizes the power of validation. It's about communicating that their feelings are understandable even if you haven't personally experienced the same thing.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of jumping in to offer solutions, we should focus on validating their experience. It's about saying, I hear you, I see your pain, and it's okay to feel this way.
Precisely. And that validation can be incredibly powerful. It can help someone feel less alone, more open to seeking help.
So let's say someone does open up to us about having suicidal thoughts. What's the next step? What should we do?
The most important thing is to encourage them to seek professional help.
Okay.
Reassure them that they don't have to go through this alone, and that there are trained therapists and counselors who can provide support and guidance.
So that's where those resources we mentioned earlier come in, like the South African Depression and Anxiety Group,
Right.
SADAG.
Yeah.
They offer 24/7 support, and they can connect people with mental health services.
Exactly. And there are so many other resources available too.
Yeah.
Like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the Crisis Text Line. These services provide confidential support to anyone in crisis 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That is so reassuring to know that those resources are out there,
Yeah,
available to anyone who needs them at any time.
it is. And let's not forget the power of support groups. Connecting with others who have experienced similar challenges can be incredibly validating and empowering. And there are many different types of support groups out there, so it's worth exploring what's available in your local community.
Yeah, it's like that saying, shared joy is double joy, shared sorrow is half sorrow.
Yeah.
Being able to connect with others who truly understand what you're going through, that can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about support, it's crucial to remember that anyone supporting someone struggling with suicidal thoughts needs to take care of themselves as well. It's emotionally demanding work, and it's important to have healthy boundaries.
That's such a crucial point. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not taking care of your own mental and emotional well-being, you won't be able to offer the best support to others.
Exactly. So make sure you're engaging in self-care practices that nourish your mind and body. Whether it's spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, getting enough sleep, connecting with loved ones, prioritize activities that bring you joy and replenish your energy.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in terms of recognizing the signs, having those difficult conversations, and accessing resources. Now, I'd love to delve into prevention.
Yeah.
What can we do proactively to foster mental well-being and create a more suicide-aware culture?
This is where Dr. Matthew Lieberman's research on social connection, highlighted in his book Social, becomes really relevant.
Okay.
He argues that our brains are wired for connection, and that social interaction is as vital to our well-being as food and water.
Wow.
Building strong support networks can be one of the most powerful protective factors against suicidal thoughts.
It makes you think about the importance of community, of having people in our lives who we can rely on, who make us feel seen and understood.
Exactly. And it's not just about having a lot of friends or acquaintances. It's about nurturing those connections and creating a sense of belonging that might look like regular phone calls with family, making time for coffee dates with friends, joining a local club or volunteer group, anything that fosters genuine connection and shared experiences.
And beyond those social connections, there are also personal practices that we can cultivate to strengthen our own resilience, right?
Absolutely. And this is where practices like mindfulness and exercise come into play. Remember Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn's book? Wherever you go, there you are. He highlights how mindfulness can help us manage stress and cultivate a greater sense of presence and awareness.
So it's not about emptying our minds completely, but rather about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about noticing our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. And even just a few minutes of mindful breathing or meditation each day can make a significant difference in our overall well-being.
And we can't forget about the power of physical activity. It's not just good for our bodies, but for our minds as well, right?
You're absolutely right. Exercise releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
Right.
Whether it's a brisk walk, a yoga class, a dance session, moving our bodies can help us feel more energized, less stressed, and more connected to ourselves.
Yeah, it's all about finding activities that bring us joy.
Yeah.
And make us feel good both physically and mentally.
Precisely. And remember, even small steps can make a big difference. It's not about trying to overhaul your entire life overnight. It's about making sustainable changes that support your overall well-being.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground already. But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to bring this back to something you mentioned earlier about the importance of breaking the stigma surrounding mental health.
Yeah. That's crucial. The stigma surrounding mental illness prevents people from seeking help, and it keeps them isolated in their struggles. We need to create a culture where it's okay to talk about mental health, where seeking help is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
And I think quotes like the one from Glenn Close.
Yeah.
What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, more unashamed conversation. Really drive that point home.
It does. It's about bringing these conversations out of the shadows and into the light.
Exactly. And that starts with each and every one of us. By being open about our own struggles, by listening without judgment, by offering support to those who are hurting, we can chip away at that stigma and create a more compassionate and understanding world.
Said. And remember, small actions can have a ripple effect. You never know how a simple act of kindness or a listening ear might impact someone's life.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. What small step can you take today to challenge the stigma surrounding mental health?
That's a powerful question to ponder, because even the smallest actions can contribute to a more supportive and inclusive society where everyone feels safe to seek help when they need it.
We'll be back soon to explore that question further and delve deeper into the complexities of suicide prevention. Welcome back. As we wrap up our deep dive into understanding suicide, I keep thinking about that question we left you with.
Yeah.
About what small step you can take today to challenge the stigma around mental health. It feels especially relevant as we explore how to create a more suicide-aware and supportive world.
It really is a question with so many layers.
Right.
And I think we have to address it both personally and as a society if we want to see real change.
So let's maybe start with the personal. What are some things we can do in our own lives to build a stronger sense of connection for ourselves and those around us?
One that often gets overlooked is being mindful of the relationships we already have. Instead of scrolling through our phones, let's really listen when someone's talking to us. Put that phone away, make eye contact, show them you're present. Not just physically, but emotionally, too.
Yeah, it's about giving people our undivided attention, making them feel heard and valued. It's so easy to get caught up in our own busy lives, but those small moments of genuine connection can make a world of difference.
And don't underestimate the power of vulnerability. Sharing our own struggles, even in small ways, can help others feel less alone and more comfortable opening up about their own challenges.
It's like that saying, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection.
Yeah.
When we let down our guard and show our authentic selves, it creates a space for deeper, more meaningful relationships.
Exactly. It takes courage to be vulnerable, but it can be incredibly liberating and empowering, both for ourselves and for those around us. And it helps chip away at that stigma surrounding mental health, showing that we're all human, we all struggle, and it's okay to ask for help.
Now, what about on a broader kind of societal level? What are some systemic changes that we can push for that would promote connection and belonging within our communities?
I think we need spaces where people can come together and interact organically.
Okay.
Think community gardens, libraries, art centers, places that foster a sense of belonging and shared purpose.
I love that. It's about creating environments that are accessible to everyone, regardless of background or income, where people can connect over common interests and feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And let's not limit these conversations to designated spaces.
Right.
We need to be talking openly and honestly about mental health in schools, workplaces, and within our own families.
Realizing those conversations is so important.
Yeah.
It can help people feel less afraid to seek help when they need it. It's about creating a culture where we can talk about our mental well-being just as easily as we talk about our physical health.
Exactly. And education is key here.
Yeah.
We need to equip people with the knowledge and tools to recognize the signs of mental distress in themselves and others, and to understand that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Speaking of tools, there's a growing movement towards mindfulness and compassion that I find incredibly hopeful. You mentioned mindfulness earlier. I'd love to hear more about how that can contribute to creating a more supportive and connected world.
There's a growing body of research that shows practices like meditation and yoga can reduce stress, increase self-awareness, and foster that sense of connection we keep coming back to.
Yeah, it's like training our minds to be more present, more aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment. And when we're more in tune with ourselves, we can be more present and compassionate with others.
Exactly. And that focus on compassion, both for ourselves and others, is something I find incredibly powerful. It's about recognizing that we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all deserve kindness and understanding, especially when we're struggling.
Yeah, it's about shifting from a culture of judgment and criticism to a culture of empathy and support. It's about holding space for each other's imperfections
Yeah.
and celebrating our shared humanity.
Beautifully put. And I think it's important to remember that even small acts of compassion can ripple outwards and create positive change. A simple check-in with a friend, a listening ear, a warm smile. These gestures can have a profound impact.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that our actions, no matter how small, can make a difference in the lives of others.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I am struck by the fact that we've come full circle. We started by talking about suicide, but we've explored so much more. The power of connection, the importance of meaning and purpose, the need for compassion and understanding.
It really highlights how interconnected these issues are and how creating a more supportive and suicide-aware world requires a multifaceted approach.
Absolutely. It's about addressing systemic issues while also empowering individuals to take action in their own lives and communities. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a world where everyone feels safe, loved, and valued.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful, and I hope it's empowered you, our listener, to approach this topic with greater understanding and compassion. Remember, there's always hope, and you are not alone.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
Until next time.